Since this is only our third episode, Matt, Greg, what are we trying to accomplish?
Well, this time I know you're excited to hear about this. It did not take as long for me to figure out how to hear everyone, and so that's a success. But other than that, so eventually, I guess at the point where I can hear everyone at the very beginning, we know we should pack it up and call it quits. But the purpose of this podcast is for people who are part of Yak Youth After Christ, or just involved sponsors, whatever. It's to get back together, reminisce about funny stories, serious stories, catch up, see where people are at, and go from there.
Greg, you
Greg,
got anything
anything?
you want to add?
Just figure out what the hell Daniel and James and Mick are doing.
That's right. That's our episode.
Yeah.
Today, it's our coast to coast. We are
Right.
in the Eastern time zone and the Pacific time zone. That is, I don't know what that means.
West Coast, West Coast.
With the mix.
West Coast, West Coast.
So we are like in 3 different time zones tonight. That is pretty amazing for people in the Middle Ages.
We got all 4 represented.
So hey, so my first question is, what year did you graduate from high school? So give us a little time reference.
Yeah, so I graduated, Daniel and I are a year apart, so I graduated 1998, Daniel's 1999. So a little bit of history, though. We moved to Newton in 1989, and Daniel was in school with Jeff Reimer. And so we first, I think, attended church, Daniel, would have been your 5th grade year or 4th grade year?
I think it was like 4th. They just started like I don't remember the name of like the kids group. It was back in the Cedar Village, and it was that youth group was way more fun than CCD at the Catholic Church. And so I told Mom and Dad, I want to go hang out with Jeff because they play games and stuff.
I remember you guys being at one of the first Bible schools I did. So
yeah, I remember showing up, Kevin, and there was that partition wall when you first walked in the doors at Cedar Village, and I could just hear your infectious laugh, which was very welcoming. And so that must have been 1990, 91. I think you had just been hired.
Yeah, and that's what we did. Dave Reimer and I did Chucky and dueling.
I forgot about that.
Chucky.
The dueling banjos.
Toughest moped gang in Elbing. No, toughest moped gang in Zimmerman.
Yep. Eating breakfast.
Right. Yep. So for those of you who don't remember that, it was the where somebody puts their arms through and does the legs. Or no, you guys who are the heads did the legs, and then somebody else did the arms behind you. Do you guys remember who were your like cohorts?
I don't remember that.
I think Raleigh shoved a lot of food in your face.
I think that's right. Probably Raleigh.
And what's his vet?
Raleigh and someone.
I don't know, freezing. We'd be freezing fast.
Oh.
Or Clausen.
Ray Clausen did youth ministries for a long time.
Radar.
Before I came, yeah.
So. I'm surprised because Ray, wasn't he like he was on the police force? Was he?
He was the North Newton PD, the whole PD of North Newton at that time.
Right. I'm surprised.
If you saw the car on one side of town, you could speed the rest of the way.
Hey, did you know Ray Clausen was on Wheel of Fortune?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, I don't remember what year, but funny story. I actually tried out for Wheel of Fortune, and so they had the promo reel, and I actually saw him up there, and I'm like, was that Ray? And then later on, Aaron DeMoss was like, hey,
you gotta
Ray
find
was...
that clip, man.
Yeah, you have to do that in an episode.
Yeah, he was on Wheel of Fortune.
Oh.
I did not make it onto Wheel of Fortune. But
I had a college a roommate that was on Wheel of Fortune. Didn't win the final showdown, but he did win a kayak. So
nice.
Oh,
very
good. So yeah, so those were good times, and I remember the new church being born. So going back to 1990. So Jeff, actually, Kevin, I mean, I remember when you brought Elliot to church for the very first time, because
Oh,
you
gosh.
would enter that,
That's right.
there was that wall, and if you turned to the right, there was a kitchen area, and Marilyn had Elliot, and he had just been born.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
In
yeah.
Cedar Village. That must have been 1990 or 1991, right?
91. He'll be 34 in
Oh
February.
my
Oh.
gosh.
Feel old.
I thought the new church was built in 91. Maybe that was 92. But I remember going out to tour it before
Yep.
it
We
opened.
put
All
like
these.
spray painted on the ground or something.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and on your future guests, you're also going to have those that had the garage, because the garage was built, I think, in 98, 99, right as we were leaving.
yep. We
And
finished
so-
that right
Oh.
like your junior year.
Wow.
Yeah, so you need to have multi-generational. You're starting with these
Right.
blue hairs, Matt and Greg, and we're kind of like golden era or silver era.
The
Yeah, we'll work
no-hairs.
our way up to some, junior hires in the garage the first time or something. So it's only our
garage.
third show. So the next question we always ask is like, what'd you do after high school? Did you do service, military, gap year, college, like
Peace Corps.
Peace Corps, work on a farm? What'd you do?
Work on a farm. I was waiting for that.
Oh well, so I watched the previous episode. James, who was the farmer that hired us to cut shattercane?
It's probably Dallas
I
Clausen.
can't remember his
Dallas,
name.
yes, Dallas Clausen.
Dallas.
Oh my
Was it
God.
Dallas?
Yeah.
That's the
The
worst
slave
job
and slave auction was
That auction.
a bit literal.
Was that the first year where we actually auctioned people off, or was it the year where you could just buy someone?
I think there was a set price. I think that, yeah, the second year.
That was not
When-
good.
when-
Things I would not do again.
Terrible.
When
That
Kevin,
was.
when
It's-
Kevin,
We'll do an episode of things Kevin should have never done. And that will be pretty close to the top of the list. That was a bad idea. I got it from a magazine. It was a bad idea.
Lawsuits simmering just below the surface.
Yeah, so we'll do an episode like that. But
That will
Shadow-
be a question
that's
for later.
a good
Of things that Kevin learned not to do from
That's
yeah.
a short book that I
Because
like.
of the Mick brothers, who Kevin called the Thunder Brothers, biblically.
nice.
Tons of thunder.
So what's involved in? Was it shattercane? You said what's involved
Oh
in
my
doing
gosh.
all that?
Machete,
Uh-huh.
walking through a field, hacking down all the shatter cane, literally, just for hours.
1 foot from the ground, so you're bent over. Like
Yeah.
you're
Oh,
walking
my.
through cornfields for
So-
hours.
Oh,
You're breathing dust, a lot of dust,
And it's hot.
a lot of pollen.
Yeah, and amazingly sharp, the leaves on shattercane and corn. It would cut your hands. And he didn't give us gloves, right? Oh, get
He
out
wanted
there.
us- and we were there like 6 a.m. to start because he wanted to avoid the heat of the day.
right. So is this after they've harvested? They have people go through and knock down the stalks, or what?
It's before.
Or is this actually? This is
Yeah,
actually
before.
harvesting.
Yeah, because they're the
Oh.
weeds that grow up and they, take nutrients and then they,
Oh,
they
okay.
get in the combine and that kind of crap like that.
Gotcha.
Okay, back to the
Okay.
original question.
Yeah, well, that was the job before. Before I left Yac, that was the job we had.
And then after Yak, that's the job. Daniel, do you want to
So-
go first?
Yeah, so I went to JBU with a bunch of other Grace people. There was a pipeline, obviously established early on. I think maybe Christy Rammer was the
She
seed
was, I don't know if she was the first, but she went
yeah.
early on.
Yeah, so I went to JBU, and I had actually looked at Heston for youth pastoring. And then Matt had convinced me to do construction management and figured out that wasn't for me. Got switched to digital media, and then graduated and knew I wasn't going to use either of those degrees. But I had a service opportunity. I went to India for 6 months. I spent 4 months working with an organization called Word Made Flesh, and then backpacked for 2 months. After that, I went to Japan and taught English for 3 years. And while I was in Japan, that job I knew wasn't going to pan out forever. And I did a big job search of like everything that I wanted in a job, and firefighting came out on top.
Wow.
And I looked at a whole list of cities, and Portland, Oregon was top of everything that I wanted. So I moved to Portland and applied for firefighting, and got accepted into a really small cohort. And we were being trained, and the chief came in one day and said, there was a hiring freeze because it was 2008.
Oh, ouch.
And he said, "We'll call you." And
Did they?
a year and a half later, after I'd burned through like $8,000 of savings, I thought
man.
maybe I should do something else. And a friend from JBU said, who's a physician in Portland, said, "You should check out nursing." And so I was like, "Yeah, that works great." Because I knew I wanted to go into education. That was actually the theme the whole time. I actually wanted to be a firefighting educator. And so now I'm a nursing educator. I went and got my bachelor's, did my PhD, and I work at a small university in central Washington called Heritage University. And it's a wonderful university where our mission and vision is to educate underserved students. We're actually one of only 2 universities in the entire country that's both a Hispanic and Native American serving institution.
Oh my gosh, that's really cool. That's
Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah, so I've been
Never
here.
heard
This is
of
my eighth year, and I'm an associate professor and interim director. But we're trying to make our way back to Portland, where we have friends and family there. So
Nice.
should-
I didn't realize you were out here when I was talking to James, and I was like, totally should have been getting together with you guys. Or,
yeah, I watched the first episode. I was like, "Oh, Matt's in the PN Dub." Yeah. Where'd you say you were? You're down in
Beaverton.
Cascade. Sorry.
I'm in Beaverton.
Oh,
So-
Beaverton. Yeah.
So there's the Beaverton, Aloha area. I moved out here in 2005, and to get married. As I don't know if you saw the first episode yet,
Yeah.
but yeah, my wife is a nursing director over at what's it called? It's Trillium Family Services.
Oh yeah. No, I'll need to chat with her a bit. That's great.
Yeah. So James, what about you?
Yeah, so I took a fairly straight path. I went to Texas Christian University. So I had an aunt and uncle that lived in Fort Worth and had shown me the university. And so went down there and got a degree in music education.
And almost played for James Taylor.
What?
Almost played, yeah. My theory, I got a call or I walked into a class and my professor said, right at the end of class, you need to go make, this call because they're looking for a bass player for James Taylor.
Wow.
And so he said, but right at the end of class, you got to attend class first. And by the time I made it out of class and got the call, the gig had been filled already. So
Oh,
What kind of teacher makes you go to class?
theory teacher, that's who.
What kind of teacher?
Terrible.
That's what I would say. You can do the James Taylor gig.
so when you called up to find out about it, did you like insert lyrics like "You've got a friend" and stuff like that? Like,
I probably should have. Now looking back on it, that was probably the test, and so it was probably the person after me that got the gig that did that. So yeah.
You could have said,
yeah,
you could have said, "My brother, he wanted to be a firefighter. I see fire. I sometimes see rain."
Rain.
you're on this, Matt. My mind is not working.
I'm not that quick on James Taylor. And the only song I can think of is Headlights, and I don't want to sing that song.
Remember who my parents are.
So after TCU, what happened?
So after TCU, I briefly taught in Arlington, Texas, and due to a professor recommendation, I came up to Ithaca College for my master's degree. And while I was here, I was teaching courses as part of my graduate assistantship and just kind of knew that this is what I wanted to do eventually. So I took a job back in Plano, Texas. So I taught elementary and middle school in Arlington. Then I moved back and took a job teaching middle school orchestra in Plano. Then I moved for my second time back to New York and was teaching high school outside of the Syracuse area. And then at that point decided to get the PhD at Florida State University. And then Ithaca College created a position. So I kind of joke that I'm a recovering middle school orchestra teacher. So I train future public school orchestra teachers. And there's not a lot of my job in the country, about 100. And so Ithaca College was creating one of those positions. So I took that in 2011. So I'm in my 14th year. And I was just recently promoted to full professor now. And part of the time, also for 8 years, I was conductor of the Rochester Philharmonic Youth Orchestra. So I did that from 2015 to 2023.
What year was the Coast to Coast Bike Ride?
That was 2006. So back when I was in Texas, I rode from Seattle to Bar Harbor, Maine, and then a couple of years later, I rode along the Continental Divide from Banff, Canada, down to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and now I recently did Unbound gravel a couple of years ago. So that's that. Yep, 200-mile, 12,000 feet of vert in what used to be the Flint Hills Death Ride, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a little bit. So,
another thing I need to apologize for.
Did you get lost?
Getting James into bike riding or the Death Ride?
No, he'll tell you the story about us meeting at the refugee station together.
Did you lose another person?
You were on the bus to the refugee station.
So, Kevin, all right, here we go. Memories of your top memories of youth group.
Top memories. Well, since that one is the one kicking off in 1996. So Kevin always has these great ideas. And Kevin, I want to know how you came up with these good ideas. But a bunch of us decided to do the Flint Hills Death Ride, which at the time was a top 10 mountain biking ride in the country, I recall. So Daniel and I went and bought mountain bikes and did all of about that much. Yeah, you bought a mountain. I don't think you did it, but you bought and I bought a mountain
that day. I think you had a Boy Scout thing because you're an Eagle Scout.
I did the Kansas ride, but not the.
I don't think I did the south to north. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I did the Death Ride.
So, so Kevin, it was me, you. I remember Andy Pankratz. There was a handful of us that did this, and it was a 74-mile ride that was in August, like the first weekend of August or something. It was zero training. There's no trees out, and when you're out riding this thing, I mean, it's intense. I also remember it was the first year they came up with the full suspension bikes, and people that had bought them had spent several $1,000s, and if they stood up, there was nothing pushing back, so they would just spin out. And so those people, like, they just bought these brand new bikes, were worthless. Anyhow, I decided not to take the cutoff because I thought I could have made it all 74 miles, and I made it 54 miles and was throwing up and everything else. So I had to get on the paddy wagon.
Is it heat exhaustion or what?
Yes, full on heat exhaustion. And Kevin, I believe, was on that bus because I think, Kevin, I don't want to tell your story, but somehow I think you ended up over the handlebars.
Yeah, I still have a bad. I can't throw a baseball to this day because of the Death Ride.
Oh no!
I hit a cattle guard and flipped over the.
Oh man!
Flipped over the handlebars and landed on my shoulder and couldn't raise my right arm. And I didn't really ride a bicycle with one arm. So I think I made 44 miles before I got a ride in. So I was with LH Bruner. He was on the ride with us.
LH.
He was so glad I wrecked because he got to quit.
You're lost.
He's like, I guess I'll just go to the relief station with you. What I remember is we pulled up at the relief station and you popped up and go, "Oh, hi, Kevin." And he laid back down, and then we had to ride in that back of that pickup together.
I think that was after an hour of just laying on the ground in the full sun.
Oh man!
Wow.
So, yep. I remember. I've never done that ride again. Actually, I did a big celebration for that ride this year because it's like some significant number of years since they started that ride. I went to that thing and they honored people who had done one of their
died
in memoriam.
Did
they have a video?
They didn't have a video of me flipping over the handlebars because it was pretty bare bones. Like no,
back in the 90s,
you had to read maps and stuff. People got lost. It was crazy. So
wow.
And we were on full-on mountain bikes, which are heavy. I mean, I just did, the Unbound, and my mind's just still blown that with no training and on those heavy bikes and everything else that we even made it as far as we did.
I think Benj was with us too. I think Benj and Andy. I think Andy found the cutoff and made it.
They found the cutoff. They were the only ones that finished, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some hardcore dudes in Yac. Benj and Tony and Jeff and yeah.
Wow.
Right,
well, speaking of injuries, Kevin apologized before the recording started about one of the mud volleyball sessions where they made a mud pit, and I went to the emergency room because I got mud packed in my eyes on accident. That was memorable, yeah. But the things that stick out were the challenges. So Greg mentioned Chubby Bunny, obviously, and the secret it's mostly air. It's a marshmallow, so you just pack them in your cheeks. And someone said that I think maybe you, Kevin, said that I was the root beer chug. I'm not good at chugging. That was someone else. I think James, if anyone had that
I
record.
think I had the root
James is
beer.
pretty good.
Yeah, James
Daniel
had the
had
root
the
beer.
Chubby Bunny, but
Yeah,
my
Chubby Bunny.
favorite was the head-to-head water faucet.
Water faucet in the kitchen.
Oh yes, I
Turn the
forgot
water
about
on the
that.
full blast. Epic fails.
Just giving teenagers hyponatremia in the church kitchen.
I seem to remember somebody was it Greg? Were you the one that were able to last for a while?
Eric White was pretty good.
Doing
Or maybe
what now?
taking the sprayer, sticking it in your mouth, and seeing how long you can chug
with it
the
on
water.
full blast.
Because we had the kitchen, and that was like,
I
whoa,
have
like
no
back in the
memory
early
of this.
90s.
Maybe
One
it
of
was
those little
Eric.
spray faucet things. That was like
Yeah.
fancy.
I
just remember
have no memory of that.
I remember
just
Eric
remember
White
the
going pretty
fails, 'cause-
long at a lock-in, and then he went outside for a while.
Oh yeah, that's right. Maybe that was what I remembered.
I don't know
Yeah,
what he did
lock-ins.
outside, but he was outside for a while. So I don't know if he threw up. I don't know, but he was
Uh,
outside.
There was always a process. People would be chugging, and then the cheeks would puff out, and you knew it was just a matter of time before just everything.
You can only drink so much water. I don't know if that's what that is, but you'll
Well,
die
learn.
if you drink too much water.
Fresh,
About 4
fresh.
seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds.
At what point
What-
does it become lethal? I mean, what should we be worried about there, Daniel? You're the nursing professor.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, with that, it's so fast. No one can drink that much. But I mean, if you drink a couple gallons of water really fast, I mean, infamously, there was when the Wii came out, there was a radio program that had a hold your Wii for a Wii, and like a single mom drank like 2 gallons of water in like 30 minutes and then died the next day. It was horrible, but something like that, not a risk because no one can drink that fast.
Okay.
Did the family still get the Wii?
Asking the burning questions here. I don't know. I think they wanted their mom back, but
Fair enough.
on the no injury scale, one of my favorite games in Yac was the Honey If You Love Me.
Oh right.
Oh yeah.
Once
Just
you
getting other
please-
people to laugh, and
Won't you
the
please
only rule is you
smile?
couldn't touch them.
Yeah,
that's a good rule. Yeah.
And then
Uh,
Kevin,
I can't remember
Kevin
if
had
you
the,
were good at that.
I
Was
don't
it
know who the best was, but you had the what was the Singled Out? That was a popular show
mhm.
in the 90s, and you would pair people up randomly, and then they would have to answer questions, and then you'd have to guess what the other person answered.
Right.
One of Kevin's questions was always, "What was your first kiss?" And he said, "Was it a peach, a prune, or alfalfa?" And those are always the 3 options: peach, prune, or alfalfa.
That reminds me of a story, Kevin, you told us when we were in youth group about that kind of thing. Should do it. I guess I could edit it out if
Oh boy.
well, you had said you went over to a friend's and you guys were, I guess, on a date or something with a couple girls, and your friend started making out with his girlfriend, and the other girl looked at you, and you said you ran out of there and ran home.
That is a true story. I was scared to death. That's a true story. First of all, I didn't really like that girl, and I was scared to death. Both things were true.
Well, I didn't get my.
The fight or flight response.
It was a flight response.
Kevin, I'm interested to hear your side of the story of when the police knocked on your door at 2 a.m. With myself and Jeffrey Reimer and several others after we had TP'd your house.
I don't really understand why that was such a big deal, because the cop, I don't know if you remember that, the cop really wanted to press curfew charges on you.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
And Marilyn and I both were like, no, it's fine. It's just pretty funny that you guys did this. We'll just take them home. And so they made us he promised we'd call your parents the next day. And like, I didn't want to call your parent. Like, I didn't, like, I didn't figure your parents would care, but I didn't want to really call your parents and tell them you were. I didn't think there was absolutely anything wrong with what you did, so I didn't think it merited calling your parents. But I had to. I promised the cop I'd call your parents, so it was the most like,
You
hey,
have
I
to.
promised the cop I'd call, and I don't think any of your parents cared. Like when I called them, they
Probably
were
not.
just like, okay.
No, I think the cop was all like power trip because that was like the year they had the curfew that went into effect.
Oh,
And we kept saying,
It's
like,
like,
these are good kids, and this is the kind of thing that good kids do. They have fun like this. This is fine. And like he just was like, well, it's a very serious offense. And I was like, no, it's not really a serious thing at all. But I didn't say that. So, but yeah, I remember that. We had that police chief that just went crazy for a while, like would chase kids down if they'd squeal their tires and stuff. It
no.
just made kids really mad. So,
Dragon Main.
so
Did you guys
Sonic
drag
Yeah.
Main
Sonic.
well?
I don't remember. It was you and Jeff. I don't remember who else. Maybe Benj.
I don't even remember. Maybe we roped like Nick and Neil and some of the neighbors.
Well, I think it
in.
was the twins.
Yeah.
So
Over in the Reimer neighborhood, there was a bunch of wily
Yeah,
kids.
Those kids were wily for sure.
Didn't
but still, like
Didn't-
TPing a pastor's house is like
That's mild.
clean fun, small town fun. Like, yeah.
Yeah, but didn't one time we re-roof? Weren't we up tearing off shingles off your first house on 8th or 9th Street, whatever that was? And
Yep,
one
yep.
of the Moore boys ended up on the ground, right?
He fell into a bush.
Oh.
It's like if there wasn't a bush, he just wasn't paying attention. He ended up like landed in a bush, and he goes, "I'm so glad I landed in this bush." Yeah.
Wow.
So glad this bush was here for me.
Thought you were gonna
Yeah.
say. Oh, I thought you were gonna say as a prank you were like taking shingles off the roof. Like we re-roofed the pastor's house as a prank.
Gotcha.
Any other
Yeah,
members
yeah.
besides
Well, Matt, Greg,
boarding and
I'm thinking that this needs to be a common theme: is what activity did we do in the '90s that would no longer be allowed? This has been a recurring theme in 3 episodes. now.
Okay.
That's
Kevin,
true.
you're probably thinking of the same thing I am, but it has to do with an airport.
An airport?
I don't think they've
Spy
been in the
versus
airport.
spy. Did
Oh,
you
Spy
do-
versus Spy. I don't know airport though.
We did
Well,
spy
First
versus
time at the
spy in
airport
the
and
Wichita
really upset the
airport.
security at the airport.
And this was in the 90s, right? Or was it still the 80s?
So remember, like we got those little dart guns. We run around and try to shoot each other.
In the airport.
But we did it at the
In the-
Wichita airport.
It was past where the security would be in today's world.
Wow.
Yeah, because you could go up to the gate.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And like we played for like 20, 30 minutes, and then some security guards started grabbing us.
Oh, Kevin, you're the best.
Oh wow.
So then we switched it to like 500 Main Place and did that for a while.
Yeah, I
That's right.
remember playing it at 500 Main Place.
Yeah, well, that's because we didn't go back to the airport.
Do you remember the fallout shelter in the basement of that area?
That was a little
Like
creepy.
all the radiation signs and stuff from the 50s?
500 Main.
Yeah.
I do remember we had like a scavenger hunt type of thing where we were in teams. And I remember one of the items was like a cigarette, and like Allison Heidebrick went up to a guy in his pickup truck and bummed a cigarette off of him for the scavenger hunt.
Probably another thing you can't do today is bum cigarettes off random guys in trucks.
When you're 15.
Yeah, because we had like
Still do that.
disposable camera photo
right.
hunt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you did that like because there was like a Kansas City trip. You know, you had the Royals game.
Mhm.
And I think some years you did the photo scavenger hunt.
Yep.
One thing I did remember is I think it was you, Daniel, when we did the Star Wars spoof. Weren't you the Han Solo character and I was the Chewbacca character?
That sounds plausible.
And then I also
Gave
played
you a lot of
Gar-
time to prep for those roles.
I think I wore like a carpet or something around and something on my head, and all I did was "Grrr." and
That's
and-
the only
and then I also played Darth Vader. I had like a
nice. Yeah.
motorcycle helmet on. I think we were at Rock Springs filming it.
Yep, and we used my Ford Windstar as the Millennial Falcon. We put a blanket across it.
So Kevin, can I spin the question and ask, what did you get in trouble for behind the scenes?
Ooh.
From either church officials or someone?
Pastor Ryan.